The Insurance Brokers Podcast is brought to you by Sarah Myerscough of Boston Tullis.
Welcome to the Insurance Brokers Podcast with your host, Sarah Myerscough. This business podcast is for ambitious brokers determined to grow their business. Our guests are highly experienced industry experts and innovators. This is the place to leverage their success, learn how to break through barriers to growth, and discover a community of support and ideas whilst growing your business.
Good afternoon, Sean. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on the Insurance Brokers Podcast. It's fabulous to have you here, and I look forward to hearing all about the exciting work at SchemeServe.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me
And
on this sort of pseudo sunny summer
Yes.
day. But there we are.
Let's hope that this is actually the start of summer, and we're going to get some nice weather as we did last year.
Indeed.
So, Sean, you've made quite an interesting leap in the last few years, haven't you? From broking background to consultant to CCO of a SaaS platform. Do you want to talk us through that and how you got to be where you're at?
Yes, indeed. So, as you quite rightly say, I spent 30 years broking. Out of 16 of those years, also developed a property owners MGA from my existing brokerage. And after 16 years and attaining a certain round number, I decided that was enough of that. Thank you very much. So went off and was going to take a few months out to have a bit of a break. But others had other ideas, and I had various phone calls saying, "Can you help me with this?" and "Can you help me with this?" So went into a little bit of consultancy work, helping out a couple of MGAs and a couple of brokers. And one of those consultees happened to be SchemeServe, who I'd dealt with in my previous life as a broker and an MGA. So that's where it all started, and it was all downhill from there, really. So there we are.
Do you want to give us a little bit of background about SchemeServe and what would be really helpful for me from non-technical perspective is a SaaS platform is such a wide term that incorporates so many different service softwares, I suppose.
Yeah.
Can you give us a bit of background about what SchemeServe is, what a SaaS platform is, and how you guys work with brokers?
Yeah, certainly. So just to give you a brief potted history of SchemeServe, we've been around for 20 years. The business was started by our existing CEO, Adam Bishop. SchemeServe was born in the cloud before we had clouds. Everybody knows about the cloud these days, but 20 years ago it was quite a novel thing. We started as an ASP platform back then, but a SaaS platform technically is a big computer in the sky. Going back to the days of old broking, where there's a big machine in the corner that used to whir and get very hot every now and then. So you had a server in your office. A SaaS platform is a server in the cloud, quite simply, a computer in the cloud. And most SaaS products are hosted on those virtual servers in the cloud and are normally paid on a subscription basis. So a bit like your Netflix and your Apple account, similar to that. That's exactly what SchemeServe is, but we've been doing it quite a little while. So we like to think we know what we're doing now.
Did you guys start when we still had to do that, the dial-up? Do you remember that?
Oh, I couldn't possibly say, Sarah.
Have I just given my age away? My kids would think I'd gone mad if I tried to explain what dial-up is.
Yes, indeed. No, we weren't around during dial-up or even the old handsets that you used to sort of put into a receiving holder. That was many moons ago, Sarah. You don't look a day over 25 to even remember that sort of thing. So
why, thank you. So from your perspective, what I'm quite interested in is your obviously your commercial background in terms of running businesses, running brokers, running MGAs, and using tech products like SchemeServe have is quite interesting. And the reason I find it interesting is because everybody talks about InsurTech and everything being more tech driven algorithms, getting rid of friction from the process, and all of these things. At the same time, there's an awful lot of sort of conversation out there about niche industries, schemes, and how important they are to the market we're in now and going into.
Sure.
And what SchemeServe kind of do is pull those two things together. So what I'm interested in is your view on how that can help a broker or an MGA now, given that you've been on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty about me being here at SchemeServe. I've been here nearly a year now, and being sitting on one side of the fence as a broker and MGA, one has certain pains I have to live through. You talk about capacity, looking for product, looking for niche ideas, for example, or niche areas of business, and coupling that with some economies of processing. Also, the compliance regime of having really accurate and up-to-date MI for the insurer. So, as a broker, I know I need to do that. So we note that we can no longer do that with a big ledger and a pen or a quill. So we need software to do that for us to manage it effectively. So in my previous life, I'd adopted SchemeServe as a platform because I recognised the fact that it was both agile, it was in the cloud, so it could be accessed from anywhere, and it was specifically developed for MGAs and scheme owners outside of the normal software houses, because sometimes they can be very much, you have to fit into a little box, really. This is what you get, and where SchemeServe is completely adaptable. So when you're looking at different schemes, different policy wordings, different question sets, rating, and all of that sort of thing can be bespoked into that platform. So that's really where the agility comes from. And as far as schemes are concerned and the rest of the market, Joe Public, I think, is now starting to be re-educated. I come from the days where the red telephone appeared in 1985. I know I don't look old enough, and even then there was some cautiousness about, brokers are not going to survive. The big red telephones arrived, and all the direct writers arrived, and brokers have still survived. And I'm a great advocate of the independent broker. Schemes business, an affinity type business, is very important for a broker, especially if they've got a really great interest in the subject. I'm a great petrol head, for example. I love classic cars, and we've got quite a few customers at SchemeServe that are in a similar niche where they have either a pastime or a hobby or an interest that they've then evolved into creating a niche type of business, and then you incubate that business to an extent where it then grows to an extent where you can then start it to become a scheme. And from a customer's point of view, having a scheme type contract means that there can be benefits in the policy wording outside of normal open market. The rating can be tweaked slightly. The broker can be more agile regarding referrals because the insurer has already given them some delegated authority to work in or parameters to work in. So it's a benefit all round, really, because the insurer is saving on time and cost, giving that authority to the MGA, and the customer is actually getting a better deal both on rate and cover. But having an IT platform to do all that for you and help you with the MI, help you with the compliance process, and help you with the quote and buy journey, obviously, as well, with a more modern day quote and buy journey that a guy will want to buy either on his phone or on a laptop or an iPad or whatever it may be in this day and age. Having that agility to quote and buy and have a distribution, a slightly different distribution as a broker or an MGA, not just as a direct writer, but as an independent broker, is very valuable.
Is your platform purely for schemes brokers, or if you're a generalist, can it still support the quote and buy, sort of on a more general nature?
It can indeed, yeah. So our core client base are MGAs and scheme brokers, because that's the reason SchemeServe was built in the first place. We are, however, now supporting some insurers with their products. So they're bringing their products onto the SchemeServe platform. And instead of giving delegated authority to a broker, because delegated authority comes with its own compliance and governance regime, sometimes the opportunity for the insurer has to be of a size for it to be worthwhile doing all that investment in at the start. So insurers are now adopting SchemeServe as the delegated authority. SchemeServe is so rule-based. We can follow the underwriting guide that's provided to the letter. So instead of giving delegated authority, SchemeServe can be given to a broker to be used as the delegated authority, and that gives insurers not only a slightly different distribution platform, but it also gives them very much agility. We could get a product to market very quickly. So where we have a niche, for example, or we have a growing market, e-scooters, drones, that sort of thing that are very commonplace, that could take between 6 and 12 months to get off the ground in normal circumstances. At SchemeServe, we could do that within 8 weeks. So you can see the difference of being an agile platform and a very swift platform to be able to seek the need that's there at the time, rather than waiting 12 months and probably miss the opportunity.
I think agility is critical, particularly now. Buying behaviours changing. Agility is really important. And a few podcasts ago, we termed the coin nimbility, which I love and think I'm going to try and get into the English dictionary.
Yes, I'm going to adopt that one. I'll adopt that one of the hashtags, Sarah, I think. Yeah,
please do. Hashtag nimbility. Let's make it work, Sean.
Yeah, let's make it trend. Let's make it trend today.
Let's do it. So SchemeServe started with 19 grand's worth of debt and 2 broken customers. How has it gone from then to now? And what sort of business decisions, business journey has it been on? Because there's lots of people in business now that are kind of going, oh my God, bad times. So talk us through the journey, because I think it's quite a good one.
Yeah, indeed. So we did start from literally 2 customers and a few coppers in the bank, and when we've grown organically from there, we've developed a product that is pretty unique in the market, certainly unique at the time, unique in the market to be able to fill a need for MGAs and brokers to process that scheme business. In the past, it was very clunky, and to try and get it into an open market software platform that were available to the broker market at the time, trying to break that system was very difficult and quite expensive. So having an open platform that could be changed and bespoked very easily is obviously very attractive, and that's where really our client base has grown from.
So nimbility and sort of evolving the SchemeServe business journey, evolving sort of as need and technology has allowed, is incredible. Can you give us like obviously redacted names, of course, but an example of maybe you mentioned the 8-week turnaround and setting up a scheme? That seems incredible. How does it work in practice? So
as I mentioned before, SchemeServe is a shell, basically. We have a rating engine, a rules engine, and a question set, all of which are bespoke to the customer. It's very intuitive. It's very drag and drop. It's even self-service. You don't even have to get us involved. We give you the platform, and you can actually build your own schemes. We're that flexible. So yeah, the 8-week scenario was actually an old colleague I knew from my broking days, who realised I'd come into the IT part of the industry, and he was launching a new product, and it was a seasonal product. Not letting any names out of the bag, but it's a seasonal product that he had to be live by a certain stage to get it in time for his renewals. And it was quite a complex build. It was a commercial combined build with a few complications. And he said, "I need this live." This was 1st of February. He was talking to me, and I said, "I need this live on the 1st of May." I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I need this live on the 1st of May. We need this live in time for season on the 1st of May." I said, "Fine, we'll do it for you." We literally got the underwriting. Fortunately, the underwriting guide and the policy wording have all been negotiated with the carrier. We passed that over to one dedicated member of staff. It was built within 6 weeks, tested in 10 days, and live on the 1st of May. So agility very much, especially when we're talking about key timing, and I mentioned that before, when we talk about key timing, and that could be either a seasonal product, which you get in all sorts of industries, especially in the boating industry, for example. Busy time at the moment, but will sort of be quiet enough in the winter. So where you've got seasonal changes there, we can be very, very quick indeed.
I think, again, nimbility, see, it deserves a place in the English dictionary. So tech being the way tech advancement being at the speed it currently is, what's next? Like what iterations are you building? What sort of business development are you thinking? Are you playing around with things like blockchain and all of those topical words that were really big a few years ago?
Sure. So SchemeServe is constantly evolving. SchemeServe is not the same it was 20 years ago, and that evolution is very much driven by our customer base, which in turn is driven, of course, by largely compliance, largely market conditions. So we have a huge pool of customers there that are telling us what they need to do. So we need to make sure that SchemeServe can do that for them and fulfill their regulatory and their MI requirements. So we're constantly adapting. COVID is a case in point. There are a lot of people, which is well published. There was a lot of people out there that were suffering really badly with their IT during COVID. Remote working has never been an insurance thing. We still wander around the city of London with big piles of paper. Lord knows why, but we do. So throughout COVID, SchemeServe has very much been business as usual. As a business, we're a remote business, completely remote business. We don't have an ivory tower anywhere. We're completely remote. And all our customers can access their platform either from their desktop, their laptop, or their iPad. So the future of that very much is going to be, I think, more about user experience, making that journey a lot swifter, probably with the help and addition of more big data, and maybe much more streamlined journeys using that data too. In fact, I envisaged I was having a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and we envisaged maybe in 10 years' time, privacy issues aside here, that you could be literally looking at your iPhone. Your iPhone recognizes who you are, where you live, and what your property is, and you'll just look at your phone and you'll have a quote. It will be as scary as that, or it can be as scary as that now.
I don't think we're far off that now. Yeah.
Indeed, it's a scary concept. But with facial recognition and artificial intelligence and automation of that big data that's out there now, it could be an automated process.
I was listening to an audiobook recently, and it was it wasn't an audiobook, it was a podcast, and it was by the podcast is called something like How to Fail, and it's Elizabeth Day, and she was interviewing Mo Gaudat, the Google X CBO, and Mo was saying that at the moment AI is in its infancy, and bearing in mind, like he's a software engineer working for Google X, so they're doing all of this big crazy futuristic stuff, and he was saying AI is in its infancy now, but it's everywhere, and it's learning from human behaviors. So it's learning from our online behaviors, social media, emails. It's always learning, and by 2050, that AI will be in its sort of early adulthood, by which time it will be able to function, almost as a being, because it's not just learning intellectual and process behaviors, it's learning emotional behaviors, and to read that, because we're not as complex as we think we are. And I find that both fascinating and terrifying. And the analogy he gives is by 2050, the AI's intelligence level will be so superior to ours, in the same way that Einstein's intellect is to a fly, right? And we're the fly. And he said, and when you get to that stage, why would you keep the fly?
Well, that is the point. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's food for thought and it's big data stuff. But I do find it really interesting to listen to these kind of things. And I do think, the technology certainly exists whereby I look in my facial recognition phone and it knows all manner of things about me. I shop on Amazon to such an extent that they know what I want before I know what I want, because they tell me what I want.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's crazy times.
Yeah, even going into the retail industry, where even now AI is playing a part, that you're facially recognized as you walk into the screen, and you're served specific personalized adverts before you go through the store from your previous web browsing history. That's happening now. So what on earth is going to happen in the future? Time will tell.
It is so interesting, and I suppose being involved in the tech business, you'll kind of see some of that stuff coming firsthand. So I think it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, very much so. So when we talk about big data, there's property data out there on virtually every property in the country. So with the click of a mouse and a postcode, and your name and your date of birth, the quote can be driven very, very quickly and very efficiently. So I think that's the way the market is certainly going.
So here's a good question for you to end on, given that you've seen many different sides of the market, MGA, broking, consultant, technology. If you were today an independent broker, given COVID, given the various capacity issues and hardening market issues, given the massive amount of consolidator activity, given technology, given the whole, the whole shebang, what would your advice be to somebody in that position now?
As a new broker coming into the industry, or just broking in general?
Both.
Yeah. Okay. Insurance is a people business. It has been a people business for years, hundreds of years, and it will continue to be so. The technology will just help us with that journey. I don't think you can. I think it depends on what part of the industry you're talking about, but I think that commercial relationship will always be a face-to-face thing. Whether that's a virtual face-to-face thing or a physical one, I think during COVID people have found that now is commonplace. So I certainly think initial meetings like this are quite accepted now. And then when we go in to later on in actually going to physically meet somebody, let's hope we can do that very soon. With going to actually physically meet somebody, that is that connection. I think we were never going to lose that in the insurance industry at all. But for a new broker coming in, there's all sorts of opportunity using the tech, using new ideas and new concepts of product. There's new things coming in all the time. Everybody's got a gadget. Why don't we have a policy for that? And there are now sort of schemes and networks of, you talk about capacity being hard to get. Our SchemeServe network has launched fairly recently, where we have 7 willing providers of capacity that will help anybody with a new scheme or an existing one. So we've tried to future-proof our IT and also having the backing of capacity to make sure that both new and existing customers continue to trade through this period.
I think that's very sound advice, Sean. Very sound advice indeed. And I'm really grateful for your time on the Insurance Brokers Podcast. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you for having me, Sarah. Take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you have enjoyed what you have heard, have any questions or feedback, please leave us a review and we will be sure to get back to you. If you would like further information on how Boston Tullis Group can support your business, or if you would like to join us on an episode, please do not hesitate to contact us.